If your own parents spent 9 summers choosing your sibling over you, would you ever forgive them? I did not scream. I did not argue. I simply waited until the day I graduated, packed the same blue suitcase they had used to send me away every summer, and disappeared without telling anyone where I was going. 4 years later, they finally found me. But they were not there to apologize. They came to ask me for one more sacrifice. My name is Madison Carter, and for 9 straight summers, my parents packed my suitcase, dropped me off at my Aunt Evelyn's little bakery in northern Michigan, and drove away with my older brother Ethan. On vacations I was never invited to. Every year they mailed me a postcard with the exact same message. Wish you were here. It sounded loving until I realized it was nothing more than a reminder that they were enjoying life without me. The first time it happened, I was only 8 years old. My mother handed me a bright blue suitcase like it was the greatest gift I had ever received. I thought we were flying somewhere magical, just like Ethan had the year before. Instead, my parents drove 5 hours to Aunt Evelyn's house beside a quiet lake. After lunch, they carried my suitcase inside, kissed my forehead, and left for the airport with Ethan. Before getting into the car, my mother smiled and repeated the words that would define my childhood. Strong kids do not make a fuss. I stood on that porch until their car disappeared, wondering what I had done wrong. Every summer became a copy of the one before. I stayed with Aunt Evelyn while my parents traveled across the country creating memories with Ethan. Every few weeks, another postcard arrived from Disney World, Yellowstone, sunny beaches, or famous landmarks. On the back was always the same cheerful sentence. Wish you were here. I kept hoping one postcard would say, we miss you, or maybe next year you can come with us. It never happened. The only bright part of those summers was Aunt Evelyn herself. She owned a small bakery where she patiently taught me how to bake fresh bread, flaky pies, and warm pastries. She trusted me with real responsibilities, listened to my ideas, and treated me like I mattered. In her home, I was not the forgotten child or the quiet daughter who needed nothing. I was simply Madison. Looking back, I realized she gave me something my own parents never could. She made me feel like I belonged. My parents always defended their choices because Ethan had survived leukemia when he was little. They believed every happy memory had to revolve around him because they had almost lost him once. I understood their fear, but even after he recovered, nothing changed. I became the healthy child who was expected to understand everything, ask for nothing, and quietly accept being left behind. When I was 10 years old, I begged to join them on a trip to the Grand Canyon. I even wrote a list explaining why I deserved to come. My mother smiled kindly before repeating the same familiar words. This trip is for your brother. Strong kids do not make a fuss. That night, I walked downstairs and saw my blue suitcase already packed beside the front door. I realized my answer had been decided long before I ever asked the question. As I grew older, I stopped hoping things would change. Instead, I quietly planned my escape. I worked every job I could find, saved every dollar, searched maps of towns across the country, and dreamed about a place where nobody knew my name. Eventually, I found a small lake town in Idaho that reminded me of Aunt Evelyn's peaceful home. Before graduation, I secretly accepted a dishwashing job at a local cafe and prepared for the day I would finally leave. The morning I graduated from high school, my parents left the ceremony early to attend another celebration for Ethan. As I walked across the stage and looked at their empty seats, something inside me finally broke free. That night, I left a short note saying I was safe, packed my blue suitcase, and drove west until Ohio disappeared behind me forever. Starting over was not easy, but every challenge belonged to me alone. I washed dishes, rented a tiny apartment, learned new skills, and eventually became the cafe's baker. My boss, Rosa, believed in me long before I believed in myself. Over time, she offered to sell me the cafe, giving me the opportunity to build a future that nobody could ever take away. For 4 peaceful years, my old life stayed far behind me. Then a local magazine featured the cafe's famous pies, and my picture appeared beside the article. A distant relative back in Ohio recognized my face, and just weeks later, the front door opened. My parents had found me. My mother looked around the cafe I had built with years of hard work. She never apologized. She never asked how I had survived. Instead, she told me my father had Parkinson's disease. Ethan was too busy with his own family. And now it was my responsibility to come home, because I had always been the strong one. She looked me in the eyes and quietly said it was time to come home. For the first time in my life, I answered with a single word. No, I told her I loved my father, but I would never return to a life where I only existed to carry everyone else's burdens. I arranged professional care for him, promised to visit, and made it clear that helping would always be my choice, never my obligation. Later, my father admitted he had searched for me for years before giving up. My brother apologized after finally learning the truth about those summers. My mother never apologized because she never believed she had done anything wrong. Today, I own the cafe that once gave me my first chance. Every Thanksgiving, Aunt Evelyn visits, and together we serve warm meals to people who have nowhere else to go. The old blue suitcase still sits on top of my pantry, but now it holds tablecloths instead of painful memories. Sometimes I look at that suitcase and smile because it reminds me of one simple truth. The same suitcase my parents used to send me away became the one that carried me toward the life I was always meant to live. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is not finding your way back home, is having the strength to build a better one.